You're listening to Achtung, Millwall, broadcasting from the beautiful South Birmingham. Accept no substitute.
Hello dear listeners, welcome to Achtung Millwall 642 Part 2. The voicemail reaction episode in the wake, of course, of Saturday's disappointing home loss 3-1 to Middlesbrough. Now we've got a good range of voicemail reaction for you for this show. Big thank you to everyone that's contributed and sent stuff in. But before we get into the meat of the show today, dear listeners, I do have to remind you that Achtung Millwall is the number one Millwall podcast, and it's in partnership with Pundit Games, which is the number one football trivia board game. Fantastic game. Birthdays for the year ahead. Great present for the football head in your life. And just as we do in every show, I've got a little teaser, two teaser questions in actual fact, to give you a taste as to what's involved. You've got a wide range of football genres and subjects. World Cup, with today's questions are both World Cup questions, but also included is Football League questions, Premier League from various decades, England, international players, you name it. There's a subject matter that will both tax you, and hopefully you'll find easier than others. That's the essence of a quiz. Play for 45 minutes, 90 minutes, whatever you choose, against your opponent. Whoever gets 5 questions in a row gets a goal. High score wins, naturally. So this is just a little... we're going to give you 2 questions just as a taster. These are World Cup questions. So just to give you a sense of what's involved in the game. So this is one of football's most bizarre moments. Luis Suarez turned into Iker Casillas in the 2010 World Cup quarter-final. That was South Africa World Cup, wasn't it? Literally saving Uruguay and taking the match into extra time and penalties. This striker, who was known as El Loco, took the decisive spot kick, scoring an audacious Panenka penalty. He played for a ludicrous 31 clubs in 11 different countries throughout his career. He was playing alongside Edison Cavani, Alvaro Fernandez, Luis Suarez and Diego Forlan in that Uruguay side that in this particular fixture beat Ghana 5-3 on penalties, but also for Uruguay against Spain in the World Cup quarter-final. So, El Loco. Who was El Loco, dear listeners? That's question number 1. We're going to have the answer to these 2 questions at the end of today's show. The other one, which I'll give you because it's on the other side of the card, so why not? Let's go for it. Let's live a little, dear listener. This is also a World Cup question. This is a big Dutchman who conceded a penalty as Holland went 1-0 down to Spain again in the 2014 World Cup this time. He quickly atoned for this, though, knocking in Wesley Sneijder's free kick to put the Orange 3-1 up. He later made the switch across Italy from Lazio to Inter Milan on a free transfer. So he was playing in a Dutch defence alongside Daley Blind, Bruno Martins Indy, Ron Vlaar and Daryl Jan Martin. That Dutch defence, that was versus the Netherlands, which finished Spain 1, Netherlands 5. Remarkable game. So a big Dutchman who conceded the early penalty against Holland in that 5-1 win eventually for the Netherlands. So that's going to be question 2. We'll have the answer to both of those questions at the end of today's show. So as we've said already, we're talking in the wake of Saturday's, in the end, disappointing loss. A strange game in many ways, as was last week's FA Cup tie against Leicester City. I said to Steve Lee in our Part 1 show how hard I found it to categorise events on Saturday. Obviously, in the end, you only judge a football match on the result, and that was a 3-1 loss, so decisive loss. But there was plenty of good stuff in that performance for me, as it was with Leicester. So it was on Saturday by a depleted Millwall squad. I mean, the starting 11 Saturday: Sarkic in goal, back line of Brian Cooper, Wes Harding, Danny Mack, I thought played well Saturday, Billy Mitchell, George Honeyman, and then in front of them Ryan Longman, Zian Fleming, Duncan Watmore up front, Kevin Nisbet, who seems to be drawing a lot of flack online as is the Millwall way. We do need a scapegoat, and if it's not Billy, it's got to be someone else. Got to be Kevin Nisbet, I suppose. So an injury hit squad, including Tom Bradshaw, is out for 4 to 5 weeks, it seems, and that really showed up in the game and in the sense of the help available from the bench. Joe Edwards, speaking after the 3-1 loss, has referred to the need for a bit of help, signings, that means, doesn't it? Because the quality of the bench includes kids, basically. So we've got Bart Bielkowski, Murray Wallace, Alan Campbell, what's he doing? Why is he still at the Den? He weren't playing on Saturday. Brooke Norton-Coffey did come back into the side. Casper de Noor came back into the side. Romain Esse came into the side. And then we've got kids. Grant, Nino Adam Malarkey, who's just joined Sutton United on loan for the remainder of the season, down with Steve Morrison down at Sutton. So he's no longer bench warming. And Lawson, Shamar Lawson, I believe his name is. Apologies to the boy if that's not his first name. But it shows you the thin nature with injuries and suspensions that are afflicting us at the moment. There's a terrific list of, well, terrific in the sense of completism, on the news at Den. You have the injury list, which no longer now includes Casper de Noor, who is back, and Brooke Norton-Coffey, who made tentative 10 minutes and 15 minutes appearances Saturday. Murray Wallace apparently was carrying a groin injury. We didn't see him Saturday. Sean Hutchinson's out. Ryan Leonard's out. And Adamo Marku, also out for a couple of weeks as this was published. Possible penciled in for a return versus Preston. That would be nice. And then you've got suspensions. Obviously, Savile's suspension will be up now, won't it? That would be the end of his suspension run on Saturday. But we've got the likes of Jake Cooper on 8 bookings. This was prior to Saturday's game. Murray Wallace on 5 bookings. Wes Harding on 4. So, the squad is carrying a weight on its back at the moment. And we do need, we hope, with the outgoing loan of Nino Adam Malarkey to Sutton, we're going to pray that there's going to be some incoming signings, because we desperately need it. So there we are. I was left with mixed feelings on Saturday. I don't know about you, dear listener, but I left the Den feeling a mixture of hope and not quite desolation. I was entertained, which I think is a big positive thing. We'll come back to that in the course of this show. But also some of the flaws of the squad were laid bare in front of us. So, anyway, on to the array of voicemails. Thank you to everyone that sent one in. I've tried my best to include as much as I can. If you do want to take part in these shows, do give me a shout on X. You can send me a direct message, dear listeners. Just press the voice sound option on a direct message and obviously speak. You can send 2 messages if you have more to say than the 2 minutes 20 that each one gives you. Or if you want to send me, a WhatsApp message, please do get in touch with me. We can swap numbers. But anyway, let's begin our first message, which is going to be with Jim Lucas. Have a listen to Jim Lucas.
Hi Nick, Jim here. Just messaging him with a few thoughts about yesterday's game against Middlesbrough. First one I've sent in since the Cardiff game, actually, when I think I tried to give a fairly glass half full view of where we were at the time back in mid-December. Probably still feel the same way, to be honest with you. Maybe only half full. I know that the period over Christmas has given some people a bit of a expectation, which is fair enough, I think, considering the number of points we are off the playoffs. But I think yesterday maybe just reminded a few people of where we are, especially with the injury situation. That's not to say that yesterday was bad in any way. I think it's always a good barometer of how you feel after a defeat, whether you're looking forward to the next game still, and I definitely am. So I think there's plenty in there to be positive about, but as I'm sure everybody else who's sent one of these messages has said, a failure to take the chances in the first half with a squad as thin and depleted as we've got was probably always going to count against us, and that's what happened. Looking at the game, first half I thought was the story of Joe Bryan, really. Said to me, Dad, after his goal, I think, if we can keep him fit, then he makes a massive difference to the team. And I think maybe 2 or 3 minutes later, he's lost his man for the first goal. And obviously second half, he's at fault for the second one as well. So an interesting player, really, Joe. Obviously full of quality and talent, but fitness record is questionable, and a couple of lapses of concentration as well. So as unfortunately a few people have said to me, or I've said to a few people before, there's a reason why these players play for us and they don't play for someone else. And maybe we saw it yesterday in terms of the two sides of of Joe Bryant, but keep him fit. I think he's a good player for us, so hopefully they do. Other faults. Obviously, Cooper should go 2-0 up, and it's a different game, but it doesn't happen. I thought Nisbet was disappointing, to be honest, all the way through. I think with Bradshaw out 4 or 5 weeks, that was a massive opportunity really for him to show what he's about and hopefully show why he should be the leading striker for the team, but didn't see very much of that myself. Thought Ian Fleming was really good. First half, actually, probably the best I've seen him this season. Faded in the second half, which will be a disappointment, and maybe subbed off a little bit early, but I think he's getting there slowly, which is good. Otherwise, I think if you look across the last 4 or 5 games, it's still a good return of points considering where we were early December. But the squad's paper thin really. It's amazing how quickly it's got to this point where we've got as many players out as we have. Honeyman now maybe as well. Compared to, I think, even Boxing Day, he was leaving players out of the squad that he couldn't fit into it, and now we're in a position where there's youth teamers who, as nice as it is to have them there, aren't going to really contribute very much. So yeah, interesting times really, transfer window wise. Halfway through it now, it's obvious what we need. I think we may have all, with Hutchinson's performances over Christmas, started to think that maybe the centre half isn't quite as needed as maybe we thought it was a month or 2 ago, but sure enough, injured again. Leonard injured again. It's clear that another defender's needed, but the obvious priority now has got to be that striker that every team is going to want. If he can pull off some magic, then fantastic, but that striker, whoever they are, wherever they're playing, there's going to be a long old queue for them, and we're never going to be at the front of that queue, frankly. So it's probably going to go to the wire, I imagine. But we'll see. I thought the manager's words were quite telling after the game, where he said we need help. Borderline desperation, really, I think. So yeah, very interesting to see how the next couple of weeks play out. But a couple coming back now, I guess, with 3 on the bench yesterday who clearly weren't fit in Denora, Wallace and Norton Cuffey, but with another week's training, hopefully will be. Saville back next week as well, so stronger for QPR. Fancy us to win there, fancy us to win well as well. Could be famous last words for someone who, as I said, is very glass half full on this team. But no, I feel good about the team. I feel good about where it's all going. But obvious that there's still a gap in terms of where we are versus Middlesbrough, who are probably the full package, and we're not quite yet. So yeah, a little way to go, but I don't feel too bad about yesterday. Looking forward to the next couple. And yeah, I think people are getting behind it really. Some of that football in the first half, I'm sure, as others have said, was probably the best I've seen for years. Probably best since McGee, to be honest, some of it. But you've got to do it for the whole game, and you've got to score goals as well. So if they can do those 2 little bits, then we're not going to be far off. Anyway, hope all's well, Nick. We'll be in touch, I'm sure, with another glass half full view on things after a game in the coming weeks. All the best. Cheers.
Huge thank you to Jim there, walking the bucolic countryside of southern England there as he was sending us that message. Glass half full. That's a good way to look at things, in my opinion, Jim. A wise man, William Starstead, if you're listening to this show, it was you, once wrote an article for CBL magazine. Manage your expectations was a theme of it, and I think as a Millwall fan it is good advice. I read some highly excitable comments from, I think, a younger set of listeners and fans on Twitter, on X, talking about Dan Ballard. We'd love to sign Dan Ballard, but if he does have a £4 million price tag, then we've got to manage our expectations, as that wise man once so rightly told me to, because I don't think we've got £4 million laying around, listeners, to bring those kinds of players in. Now, whether that is the true price tag, whether deals can be done, that's what we're looking to the club's recruitment team to do now. I can't believe we've got resources to really step into that level of signing. It'd be lovely, something, the talk of the boy Gilchrist at Chelsea, where we're looking for some of Joe Edwards' magic, as Jim's just alluded to. Clearly, at the moment, this is a squad built by Gary Rowett for Gary Rowett purposes, and Joe has come in and is starting to ask them to play football at a higher level than perhaps they've been used to, many of them. I mean, I think some are doing really well. Some of the football in that first half, as Jim's just said, and I said to Steve in part one of this weekend show, some of the football we played in moments, not across the game, and I accept you play for 90 minutes and not for 38 minutes, but there's some really, really nice moves, some of the best I've seen in a long while, and I go back a long way, probably like you listeners as well. Go back a long time. I can't think when I was seeing such good Millwall football being played. Now that's got to be across a game, and you really, really do need to bring players off the bench that can maintain that high energy tempo and affect a game in a way that maybe we just didn't have on Saturday. We've had some decent results in recent weeks, so we were in with a shout of having a decent result up until really we gifted goals. Not so much the first one. I think the first one was a well-worked goal personally by Middlesbrough. There were defensive errors being made. We really did gift them the lead, though, didn't we? With Joe Bryan, and as Jim has said, he's a quandary. Joe Bryan. I think that he's probably the epitome of a player that, if he was any better or any more consistent, he wouldn't be playing at Zampa Road. But yeah, do keep in mind. This is my theme. I'm probably going to put this theme into repeat, shows going forwards. This remains Gary Rowett squad with elements of a Neil Harris squad still in there. I mean, Big Jake and Sean Hutchinson, although he's out at the moment, are from our third division days. Murray Wallace. So there's elements, as a sprinkling, a seasoning of the League One days mixed with a Gary Rowett squad, and Joe Edwards is asking them to start to try and think about playing like the top teams do. So it's a big ask. It's a big ask. Big thank you though to Jim. Let's move along now. Let's have Joe from Chicago. Always enjoy Joe from Chicago stuff.
Hello, Joe from Chicago. Whew, that was just an ugly performance. Joe Bryan on that second goal from Boro. I mean, all the goodwill he built up in his goal that he scored. What a terrible pass. Just gifting Boro that second goal. Full Duncan Watmore experience today. Love the guy, love the way he runs, but he has zero finishing quality in the attacking third, and you can see why a team like Boro was happy to let him go when they did, to upgrade to some guys who can actually finish consistently when given the opportunity, because Millwall should have scored 2 or 3 today. There's really no excuse when you consider the chances they had. Defensively, that was just really not great to watch. The whole discussion about effort at the end was really tough to watch. You've got heavy legs, sure, but you've had a week off. You've got another week off. If you can't use these young guys on your bench, there's a real problem at Millwall. And that was the one thing that's concerning. When you split against Boro, it's kind of fine throughout the year, but it's not going to get any easier for the Lions, and I just really don't need another full Duncan Watmore experience anytime soon. Cheers. Hope everyone's well.
The full Duncan Watmore experience sounds like a particularly cheap end strippogram or something like that, or maybe some kind of dodgy service being supplied in a place like Amsterdam, doesn't it, Joe? High energy performance, but as we've said a few times, and I suppose you've got to include Watmore in this, I've quite liked the energy that he brings, but it is unfocused. This is the level that we are trying to move up from. The problem, as we've just said, is that this remains a Gary Rowett squad that looks to play within the limitations of the squad, whereas I'm taking Joe Edwards' style as aiming to take those limitations and push them a little bit, so you're going beyond yourself. That will work some days and other days it won't. I think Middlesbrough were a decent side. They really, really weathered the storm. But if that Jake Cooper chance had gone in, big if, instead of clipping the crossbar, I watched the rerun on YouTube. Listeners, I still don't know how you can miss from that range. Yeah, obviously he did, but if that had been 2-0, then we may have had a different ball game on our hands. The high energy style that Joe Edwards is requiring, because we don't have any any great players. No, there are no Alfredo Di Stefanos amongst our Millwall squad. The best we're going to get is Ian Fleming. And I do think that he's doing better. I think he looked a bit more physical, especially in the first half. But the energy levels fade a bit, and we don't have much to bring in. We don't have any Ferenc Puskas to bring in off the bench. So a few old names there for the older listeners. A bit of nostalgia for you all. Wasted chances. Story of our season. I've just been looking at the top scorer lists for the club. I think I described Tom Bradshaw in the other show as our top scorer. He's not actually. It's a close run thing between Ian Fleming, 5 goals and 4 assists, versus Kevin Nisbet, 5 goals but 0 assists. I thought Nisbet did okay yesterday. He actually gets himself into positions, but the problem, in my opinion, and there's a lot of people hounding Nisbet online now, on X, is not so much him. It's the fact that our crossing and final balls are not being played into him to finish. I think if you give him the chance, I think he will finish. Tom Bradshaw is actually our 3rd highest top scorer, followed by Wes Harding and then George Saville on 3 and 2. So that does illustrate very well our goal scoring problems, as Jim and I think Joe has alluded to there. Goal scoring is a problem, wasted chances is a problem, but that's the gold dust of modern day football. Where we're going to find a top striker that others have missed, that we can afford. Answers on a postcard or an email. Send them into the Mill email with your suggestions as to who might fulfil that particular role. Big thank you to Joe from Chicago. Let's have a listen now. Let's go Aussie side. We're going to go from the Midwest to Jamie Mack out there in beautiful sunny Australia.
Morning all, not going to say too much. Here in the Gippsland Lakes, otherwise known as the Australian Riviera. Bit tired after watching the game at 2 a.m, especially as I got up at 2 a.m. the previous day, getting my days wrong as you do sometimes on holiday. And to be honest with you, probably the happiest I've ever been after watching a defeat. Yes, it was disappointing, but I can really see where we're going in the future. For those that have been knocking Billy Mitchell, I thought he had a fantastic game, especially in the first half. And to think he would go to Charlton would be ludicrous. He's miles above that. Really impressed with the way he was playing out from the back, controlling the tempo. I think the biggest difference was the strength in depth, that we really didn't have much off the bench, and that really affected the second half. If you can't make the changes, then you can't really affect the game, and the energy levels dropped. Silly mistakes cost us the goals. But yeah, again, can really see where we're heading, and this is more exciting than watching a boring 0-0 or even a 1-0 win from a Rowett side. I'm happy to lose 3-1, obviously not every week, but going forward, come on you Lions.
Big thank you, Jamie, out there on the Aussie Riviera. I am not jealous one little bit, mate. It was freezing down there at the Den on Saturday. It was a mare of a journey to get over there. I think I said in the other show, I'm going to say it again. Well done to everyone that turned out on Saturday, because it wasn't an easy day to travel across London. The Illuminati behind roadworks and tunnel closures and railway lines being shut for weekend works combined to make it well nigh impossible to get to the Den. And it was cold. You do feel the cold more in the second half when things were going awry, rather than the first half where we really were playing some pretty good stuff. And the entertainment thing, Jamie, is what I wanted to pick up on from your message, because I think the most refreshing thing, I think unless we really have a dire run of form, we seem to be set now for perhaps mid to lower table respectability. The bottom 3 in a division, who are Sheffield Wednesday, Rotherham and Queen's Park Rangers. Just check that whilst I'm talking. Yes, Sheffield Wednesday, QPR, Rotherham. 22 points for Sheffield Wednesday, 21 QPR, and Rotherham on 18. They're not, they're far enough. We have a cushion enough if we can maintain a win every few games to keep them at bay. the main thing for me this season is to get back that sense of enjoying going to watch Millwall, which I think, in fairness to Joe, he's achieving. The first half left me feeling pretty good. I know it went wrong, listeners, and you don't enjoy getting beat, but the buzz of the football, the crowd were into it, and then it went off the rails. But how many of us were moaning about the dreariness of Gary Rowett football? Well, we've not got that anymore. We've got a team that's committed to going forwards. And you're going forwards with players that are not suited to that style particularly, but are doing their best. So you're going to leave gaps. You're going to find yourself with the likes of Danny Mack, who I thought did well Saturday, but he's going to be covering central field positions. So, it's going to be a stretch at times, and you'll win some and you'll lose some. But that at least sends you back home having enjoyed your trip to the Den. And I think that's a massive, massive step forwards for me personally, because that was the thing that was starting to gnaw away at me. I mean, I don't know what else I'd do on a Saturday but go to Millwall, but it was making a pretty bleak proposition. I think that's a big step forwards, Jamie. I make you right about Billy Mitch. I've seen these rumours. I think there are children out there that invent rumours sitting in their back bedroom expecting stupidly priced signings and demanding them. I think I blame the Championship Football Manager FIFA generation for expecting big money, millions of pounds signings, and writing players off to silly places like Charlton. Who would want willingly to go to Charlton? I know that Billy don't. Where would you rather be, at the Den or at Charlton? It's a no-brainer. So I don't buy that one. But we do want to see some signings fairly soon. Big thank you though to Jamie for contacting us from the Aussie Riviera. I'm biting my hand with jealousy. Next up, let's have a listen to Lawrence Binney.
Hi Nick, Lawrence Binney here, calling in after Middlesbrough 3, Millwall 1. Difficult to know where to start that game, I think, because there was so much to be encouraged by in that performance. Some very basic errors have cost us, and painted a picture which will mislead anyone who didn't actually watch the game. First of all, I'll talk about the negatives, or maybe give some constructive criticism. I think at the moment, given the wholesale change in style, we are really struggling. Well, maybe not struggling, but I think we definitely have some issues at the moment with what to do off the ball. I think you could see that for our first goal in particular, where Cooper goes in to plug the gap that what's his name? Joe Bryan has left behind. And Joe Bryan, rather than sort of go into when he's caught up, rather than catch up and try and fill the space left by Cooper, has gone to the man that Cooper's trying to defend against, which has left a huge gap for them to slide the ball across for 1-1. I think you could also see, this is not directly related to it, but Cooper finding himself in quite advanced positions shows you that our players are being asked to do very different things from what they were under Gary Rowett. I think also in terms of constructive criticism, our final ball needs to be a lot better. We are 90% of the way there in terms of process, but I think that final 10% counts for, well, it's the most important part, and at the moment it's very inconsistent. So, you have a very good cross from Longman for the first goal, which goes out to Bryan for a fantastic half-volleyed finish, but then you also have 20, or it felt like 20, 30 times where we're in good positions to cut the ball back into the box, and we deliver quite a flat cross, or else don't see the runners coming in from behind to slot the ball in. In terms of positives, I think there was a lot to be positive about. I'm not being hyperbolic when I say that I think that is the best football that I've seen Millwall play for a good 20 years. Who ever said that these blokes were a bunch of cloggers, I think was being put under a spell. I think we brought in cult-like into this idea that these players can't play football, or a Millwall side can't play football. In 10 weeks or so, I think Joe Edwards has proved that is definitely not the case. some of the football we played today was absolutely delightful, and we dominated Middlesbrough for long periods of that game. Special mentions to Zian Fleming and Ryan Longman today, who I thought were exceptional. I mean, Fleming in particular, especially given the tough time he's had of it recently, looks like a man reborn in that position. There was one moment where he did a little back heel flick to set Watmore through, which, if Messi did that, they'd be talking about that for ages. But he did that, I felt like, a few times today, and was absolutely brilliant. I'm going to talk about, very quickly, the man who I feel like the fans may be turning on or turning into a bit of a scapegoat, and that's Kevin Nisbet. I don't feel like Kevin Nisbet is not putting in the effort at the moment. I think that Kevin Nisbet is suffering from a bit of Steve Morrison syndrome, or more pertinently, the Steve Morrison that arrived to us from Stevenage in those first few months under Jacket. Remember in that Calvin book, he recalls that anecdote of Steve Morrison apologising to a Wycombe player after accidentally clattering into him, and Jacket rips into him at half time and says, "What the fuck are you saying sorry for? You should be telling the cunt to fuck off." And I feel like Kevin Nisbet is in dire need of some of that sort of sage advice, just a bit more tenacity, a bit more physicality, and I think he'll be there. But that sort of depends on him, and I don't know if Joe Edwards is that sort of coach. And on the whole, I'm becoming convinced that actually, if a player can't fit into that mould, we'll find someone who can. Very, very enthusiastic about the season ahead. Again, despite a home loss. Again, despite conceding 3 goals. I'm positive, and I think the next half of the season will see us comfortably top half if we can maintain this sort of performance. Cheers, Nick. Bye.
Achtung, Millwall.
I've invented a nickname for what we want to see from Kevin Nisbet. That is Nasty Nisbet. We want to see Nasty Nisbet. Huge thank you to Lawrence for that good summary, and I agree with it, Lawrence. Kevin Nisbet, I think, is a good player. I think that some of his flick headers on Saturday and his intelligence in passing were evident. If anyone that wants to see it, I'm going to discount the nonsense that I see on Twitter and on X, because I think where the player is falling short, as you've just said, is the physicality side, that imposition of yourself on a game and making stuff happen. Nasty Nisbet is what we want to see. If you're listening to the show, Kevin, and I think from what I've seen of some of Joe Edwards' approach in games like Norwich and Queen's Park Rangers, I don't think he's afraid of going toe-to-toe. Now, obviously, the modern game doesn't let you mix it like you see on the nostalgia clips of the 70s, the ones that I love to watch. You can't do that because you'll get yellow carded and red carded, but there's a certain toleration for the tackle and imposing yourself physically on a game. That's what we've got to do, and that's what Kevin Nisbet's got to do. Nasty Niz. There's a new nickname for you, Kevin. I'll make you right about Zian Fleming, especially in the first half. I mean, there was a flying move, and I can't remember now, as I'm talking to you all, dear listeners, whether I included it in my live clips that I put together, but there was one flowing move that lifted me out of my seat. I thought it was a really, really beautiful thing to behold. It was a movement from the back to the front, nice passing. I think it was where Watmore went, was pushed just slightly sideways and shot into the side netting. May have hit the goalkeeper. He hit the goalkeeper for a left-sided corner. But it was a beautiful move. And as I've said a few times, I should say it again, because what the hell, it's my show. I say the same things over and over if I like. It's the best football. Some of it was the best football I've seen in a long time. And I'm going back to Bruce Rioch's early days in 1991 too. McCarthy era, when he first took over. The football at that point was the best football I think I can say as a Millwall fan I've ever seen. And this is harking in that direction, if that's such a thing. The idea that Jake Cooper's going to get forwards and into advanced positions there's an inbuilt humour in it. Whether the likes of Jake are long-term plans, because our main priority for Joe, I think, will be to survive to the end of the season in this league and then look to rebuild a team in his image. It'll be interesting to see what signings we make. presumably make signings, to see what comes in, because these should be players that can play the style of football that Joe Edwards is setting, whereas, as we've said a few times, this is a Gary Rowett squad, still being asked to do more than Gary Rowett would ever dream of in his wildest private dreams in the depths of the night. Let's have a listen now to Simon Fay.
Hi Nick, Simon Fay, just checking in after the Millwall versus Middlesbrough game. Let's start with the positives. Thought we actually played well today. Got forward, passing forward, did really well. Brian getting well down the wing, along with Longman. Actually put in some decent balls. If only we had a striker that could finish, Nick, we would have been 4-0 up at half time. But then Boro then show what happens if you have a clinical striker and you're given guiltless chances and you put them away. I mean, in the second half, you can't legislate for that defensive mistake from Brian. Even I could have put that one away, to be fair. We huffed and we puffed. Thought we still did quite well in a tight game. Joe Edwards talks about moments. Well, we had moments today where we made mistakes and they were punished. And they made mistakes and we didn't punish them. But still, there you go, there's the Sky Sports News again. It must be me. Still, on to QPR. Come on, you lads.
Big thank you, Simon. I can tell, because I was in that raw cold of South Bermondsey myself on Saturday, and I could hear it in your voice, mate. So big thank you for sending that today. Clinical finishing. That's what money buys you, doesn't it? I'm hoping that we have some form of list or agenda of players to address that issue, because, as you say, you're right. I mean, unless we can develop this nasty Niz that we've just been talking about, nasty Niz will need backup. We've got Tom Bradshaw out of the game now for 4 weeks. I don't know that we've got any other strikers. I mean, other than kids. So we need to find someone somewhere. This may well be a moment for Joe's Chelsea and Premier League contact book to come into play and maybe make that one of the moments. We certainly need to liven up on the goal scoring front. If we can do that alone, I think the criticisms across the squad, if you want to be picky. I mean, we've mentioned Jake Cooper, Wes Harding. I think you can always look to improve central defensive positions, and I think both of those players will probably expect to be improved upon given the close season, at the end of the season. Some of our moves on Saturday were pretty good. I mean, we broke from midfield a few times with pace and power. As ever, quality is what we've just been talking about throughout the whole show, really. But the quality lets you down. But I thought there were moments when we looked pretty powerful in that first half. It's maintaining it that's going to be the problem. So a huge thank you to Simon for sending that. Let's have a listen now to Matt Richards. Go with Matt Richards.
Hi Nick, it's Matt Richards. Really disappointed, mate. It's just been thinking. It's like we got to put it into some sort of context. The players we've got out injured, makeshift defence. Danny Mack isn't a central defender, so what's cost us today obviously is in the main is stupid mistakes, poor defending. The last goal we can't really, the game had gone. It was only like a minute to go, but obviously the second goal was horrendous. Lack of poor concentration, poor execution, and the first goal was non-existent defending. They were queuing up at the back post to just tap it in. Really, I don't know who was supposed to be tracking back, but that's what I'm kind of putting it down to. Really is that. Yeah, I mean, there's other things as well. The amount of chances, or we got into good positions. I mean, the football we played in the first half, I think everybody will agree, was some of some superb stuff. Some of the passing from the back through the lines, the little touches, little flicks, beautiful stuff. Okay, it was breaking down a lot of times when we got into near the area, similar to against Leicester really in the cup. but it was really good. It was almost too good. You're kind of thinking, look, if we don't score, because the first goal was really good goal, good finish. But it's one of those games, typical games, where if you're not scoring another one, then you think, oh, hang on a second. Cooper hitting the bar. Watmore's, he had a really good chance, but I thought he should have hit it perhaps a bit sooner. And then, the writing was on the wall. They'd had a couple of chances just before then. Sarkic had a save, and the other one of the players just couldn't get out of his feet. And we were the better team, but they were still creating chances. And they punished us. And second half, after Brian's error, we just didn't look like scoring second half, really. We just couldn't get through them. They just sat back. Well, not so much sat back, but they were in really good shape, and we just couldn't get. Yeah, we got down the right a few times to get crosses in, but they weren't hitting the man. I don't think there's enough presence in the box. So when we get the crosses in, okay, so the crosses can be better, but there's only one player in there in this bit, and that's it. And it's anyway, it's just really frustrating because it's just frustrating because we played well and we're on a good run, and that's probably 3-1 is probably not a fair result really, but they took the chances we gave them, and we didn't score anymore, so that's it. So feeling deflated really, but I'm thinking about next week that if we can play with the same sort of vim and that we did in the first half, and get a couple of players back. The bench is looking, players coming back on the bench. There's no reason why we can't beat QPR. I'm really kind of quite confident about that. So that's the one I'm going to finish off. Is depressing, disappointing result, but let's look ahead to next week and let's get 3 points on the road. Cheers, Nick. See you, mate. Bye.
Cheers, Matt. QPR away is looking like a really, really big fixture. I think we've got to expect, no matter how thin our squad is at the moment, we should have enough in us, going by recent performances, to go there with an expectation that we're going to come back along the central line back into town with 3 points in our collective bins, because they are adrift at the moment. I think, did I say 21 points earlier on? I've taken the table off my phone now, so I think they were second from bottom with 21 points, and Sheffield Wednesday on 22, but they're some way adrift in the bottom three at the moment. We want to consolidate them being in that bottom three, and we want to boost ourselves towards mid to lower mid-table respectability. That's where I think our season lies. There was brief giddy talk, might I say, listeners. I fell into it. I start talking giddy when I get carried away. Of playoff runs. I think we've got to put that out of our head unless we can find a goal scorer that's consistently, whether that's Nasty Niz, this new alter ego that we're inventing for Kevin Nisbet, or whether it's going to be some hot shot prospect from one of the Premier League sides that comes in to learn his trade at South Bermondsey. We don't know. But Middlesbrough did set the bar. That's the kind of level that we've got to try and aspire to if we want to survive in this league. If you want to have any aspiration whatsoever towards the top six, you've got to have goal scoring ability. You can probably get away to some extent with lesser lights in the the defensive and midfield areas to some extent, but there's no substitute for goal scoring quality. We've seen that no end of times with teams doing well. Remember Fulham, was it Mitrovic, when he was on fire in our Championship division. You need something or somebody like that to score goals big time. So, and as Joe Edwards rightly said, these are not an exact quote, words to the effect of that we don't want to be the side or a side that everyone coos over, but we don't win football matches. So, yeah, I think everything that we're saying across this whole show is going to be well apparent to Joe Edwards. Big thank you to Matt Rich there. Let's going to go now to the second Matt, two Matts in a row. Matt Webb.
Hi Nick, Matt Webb here. I'm hoping I've got this in time for the edit, but just my thoughts on yesterday's game against Middlesbrough. I thought I'd give myself a bit of time to calm down, I would say, because I was going to leave a voicemail straight after the game, but I was probably a little bit emotionally hyped up, I think, about the actual result. So, first and foremost, I think yesterday's game indicates that we need to strengthen the squad. we're so light. It's, you know, you got some youngsters on the bench who are definitely not in sort of like the mindset of Joe Edwards. It doesn't seem. But yeah, now we've probably looks like a couple of more injuries down. Bradshaw out for 5 weeks. We need to invest in the next couple of weeks, and that's a priority. So that's first and foremost on that one. Whether that be we have to generate funds, well, he only got 10 minutes yesterday, but you know, if we have to sell Roman, they say let's do it. Let's get some cash in. Let's get some money for the boy. Also Fleming as well, and then let's just reinvest into the squad and really work on that one. In relation to the game, mate, I'm seething because the game itself, leading up to it, was all played into our hands to say that we were going to win. And I mean that by looking at from Tuesday night when Boro got a result against Chelsea. And I'm thinking, great, so they've got to focus. They've got a second leg semi-final to have more of a focus on. And so, you know, are they going to rest their players? Are the players going to sort of, you know, not put 100% effort into it? Well, 100% they will, because they don't want to get injured. It was like when we were in the 2004 FA Cup final. As soon as we got there, God, Jesus, our form just slipped. And now seeing the players, they just didn't want to get injured. So that annoyed me. The fact that they arrived up late kickoff, they were going to be, you know, all their plans are thrown out the window because of the traffic. We were ready to go. It was good to catch them early, and we did. To be fair, we scored, which after 10 minutes was great. We caught them on cold, and we should have capitalised. So it was playing into our hands, really, this game, even before kickoff. And then the actual game itself, I thought we played really well, mate. I mean, this is what annoys me. We played really, really well. I was enjoying the game, you know, and if there's one thing I can't stand is other fans of our club need to understand this is modern day football. Man, the people around me moaning, oh, this is shit, this is shit, this is shit. They need to really truthfully just hold on to themselves and just realise that modern day football nowadays is about possessional play and building up. So please, get behind that team, get behind the project. And if you don't, and you enjoy watching long ball football, go to lower league football, because at the end of the day, this is modern football and this is how it's going. And I'm sorry to say that, but you need to have a little bit of a reality check, please. As I said, I think Joe Bryan became the hero and villain yesterday. Great goal, great finish, but then 2 mistakes by him led to 2 goals. First one, he didn't track the runner after Cooper came out to the left, and the second one with that very soft header which led the other lad on. And to be fair, we was pushing for the equaliser and we conceded a third. That's just football. As I said at the beginning, mate, I think it's all about, we need to really invest in the club, into the team. We need to really strengthen in numbers, because we have got, in my opinion, 2 games next up, QPR and Preston, which are absolute 6-pointers, just so that we can get a bit more comfortable in the league. And I say that because I look further afield, and the likes of Hull away, Coventry away, Ipswich at home, Southampton away, all in the month of February. It's definitely a really hard fixture list coming up. So come on, you Lions. Let's see if we can get the checkbook out, and if we have to pay his Uber Eats bill to do that, so be it.
A little bit of editing right at the end there, Matt. Did you notice that? For legal reasons, my legal advisor, which is the angel that sits on my left shoulder, said, just take out that name, Nick. So I did. But yeah, I make you right. Obviously, get behind the project. I think you are spot on there, Matt. I would recommend everyone to come and sit in the Groupon stand with me, because you don't hear any moaning up there. You hear a tower of babble of European and various languages, but you will not hear any moaning, because it's mostly sold out with the weekender crowd. But yeah, get behind the project. The price of modern football, and you can see where it's trying to go, because there were some beautiful moves, and as I've said a few times, albeit the result wasn't what we wanted. But the modern football involves not giving the ball away cheaply, and get it forwards to the big striker up front is a style that is no longer going to work in the modern game, because other teams work out that rapidly and beat us on the counter hit. And if you want evidence, Exhibit A for that was the latter day stages of Neil Harris's reign, where the style that took us up from League One, and which we've all been conditioned and brought up with at Millwall to love, long ball direct football, was shown up badly, and that's how it finishes. So yeah, we have to move with the times, and get yourself in a Groupon stand, Matt. Get away from the moaning, mate. Roman Esse, yeah, saw him briefly, didn't we, Saturday? Who knows? I don't know. I don't make any claims to being in the know. No one tells me anything from the club, so I don't know whether there's any prospect of a deal there. And if there is, and it generates money, then you can see across the squad the need to strengthen and reinforce. That's all I'm going to say on it. Make you right about Queen's Park Rangers and Preston as 6 pointers too, Matt. Big games looming. Next up is going to be Jim Hackett, followed by Rob Abbots. So take it away, Jim.
Morning, Nick. Jim Hackett. Just a quick comment about yesterday's game. As much as it was disappointing to lose the game, I do think the performance itself showed how far we've come in a relatively short time. I think nobody now is looking down and thinking about relegation and getting dragged into that fight at all. I think if we can carry on playing the way we're playing, taking our chances, and hopefully getting players back from the injury table, then I think we'll be fine. And I think just looking at that yesterday, I'm more positive now than I've been for a while, because I think even with injuries, the system is playing seems to be inclusive of everybody. As players are coming in, they're just joining straight into it. So I was okay with the performance. Obviously, the result was disappointing. Don't think it was a 3-1 game at all. If anything, it could have ended up as a draw, and I think we'd have still been disappointed with that, but would have accepted it because of the way we're playing. I think Mack coming back in, I was really happy for him that he seemed to get in there. He wasn't asked to do all the forward stuff that he would do as a wing back and possibly get criticised for. He just defended, and he defended well, and he covered across when he had to. And I thought he had a really solid game. And if anything, I'd probably give him man of the match. But I have to say the whole team played well. Watmore, full of energy. Unfortunately, didn't have the finishing touch yesterday, but the chances he creates for himself. And it'd be very hard to look at him and I think there's a problem there. But I think he, along with everybody else, played their part yesterday. Longman, again, comes in for criticism. Did really well yesterday. Had that lad on toast, and he put enough balls into the box for us to try and get something out of. And overall, like I say, I'm very pleased with the performance and the style of play we've got now. There is a route of looking at it and saying we know what we're getting now. And I think hopefully we're at the point now where he just does need to add 1 or 2 players to that, because we can't keep this squad fit, and we haven't got enough players to replace the good ones who go out. And unfortunately, it does take its toll. And it took its toll yesterday. You can see we were blowing the second half, and there wasn't really a lot on the bench to come on. And those that did, I thought did okay. I mean, Casper Denor coming back is a great lift for everybody, and it's going to be really interesting now. Saville's going to be back. Who does he put in that central midfield place? Because Hanneman can't get dropped. I thought Billy played probably his best game yesterday, and we now got all those riches we have in the centre of midfield. He's got to get the right blend, and he's got to get the right 2 in there or 3 in there, whichever you want to put it. So overall, yesterday, very happy with the way we're playing. As I say, not looking downwards anymore. I think that there's a positive vibe about it. I saw an interview with Edwards where he was saying exactly that. It's all right coming off saying how well we've played, but somewhere along the line, it's the points that matter. And if we can combine the performance with the points, then I think we'll be fine. And hopefully next week against QPR, we'll get back on that road of digging points out and winning games and playing comfortably and looking good. So for me, I'm okay on a Sunday morning, despite the fact we lost. And I've lost a tenner to a Middlesbrough mate of mine. But I can swallow that. So good luck, everybody. See you next week at QPR. Come on, you Lions.
Morning, Nick. Rob Abbott here. So 30 minutes there, we were absolute brilliant. The football we were playing was superb, entertaining, but we just weren't clinical enough. Cooper has to score that to make it 2-0, and then who knows, could be a different game. To let Middlesbrough back into the game, poor defending for the first goal. I think Joe Bryan is caught well out of position there, and then he's made a howler for the second, but that second killed the game. We looked dead on our feet after that, but I'm sure most of your callers will be saying the same thing. We need some bodies in this football club to keep going. I think I'm always optimistic and always looking up. It's still only 8 points to the playoffs, but I'll quite happily take a mid-table finish this year, playing the way we are under Edwards, and then give him this window and the summer, and then let's look to push on from there. But look, compared to Rowett, it is entertaining to watch, and onwards and upwards.
Big thank you, Rob. And before him, a positive sounding Jim Hackett, which is good stuff. I do agree with Rob. We do need signings. We've said that quite a few times across the show, and I think it was evident Saturday as to how thin the squad has got thinner again this afternoon with the loaning out of Nino Adam Malaki. So one can only presume, is that too naive to presume, dear listeners, that we've got some deals lined up to come in. We have to have something soon, because we're going to be playing with possibly me out there soon, listeners, in the kind of a stopgap central defensive role. As long as it don't involve any running around, I'll be fine. Big thank you to Rob, and before Rob, to Jim Hackett. Let's finish off the show now. Two callers on the spin. Show regulars, Angelo Miliotto, and then we'll finish with Ben Anthony.
Hello, Nick. Angelo here, mate. Just a couple of words about today. Obviously, I hate Millwall losing games, but I've got to say that first 35 minutes is probably the best football I've seen us play in absolute years, mate. And that's with half of our first team missing. So, mate, I am so happy in a way. Gutted we lost, but I'm happy that we have got the right guy in charge. There's no two ways about it, mate. You know, I was saying to my son, the first 35 minutes, it's just different leagues to what the football we was playing with Rowett. Do you know what I mean? It was brilliant, mate. Absolutely brilliant. And we just got to be a bit more ruthless up front. We need strikers. Nisbet doesn't get many chances. You know, everyone's giving him pelters on social media, but did the guy have one clear chance today? I don't think so. Unfortunately, all the chances went to Watmore, and he just took one too many touches. Instead of just fucking going for goal, he wants to keep checking back. You know, he's just got to keep shooting. I would love to see them the chances that Watmore creates. I'd love to see them chances going to Nisbet, see if he can finish them. But yeah, we need some reinforcements. But positives, Cuffy looks like he's fit. Wallace was on the bench. Denor is back. We got Saville coming back. Bad news about Bradshaw's going to be out for 4 or 5 weeks. That's a bummer. But anyway, the most important thing today was them first 35 minutes today. We are only going to keep getting better. That was the best football I've seen for a long time. So, you know, well done to Joe Edwards on the coaching so far. Let's see if we can get back to winning ways at QPR next week. All right, Nick, have a good night, mate. Come on, you Lions.
Hello, Nick. Hello, listeners. Ben Anthony here, calling in after the 2-1 loss to Middlesbrough, which on one hand is another defeat at the Den, and that's disappointing. I know that I don't know if everyone heard, there was some boos at the end of the game, and I thought that was a bit harsh, because I thought the other hand, which was particularly that first half an hour of the game, I thought we were excellent. It was some of the best football we've played this season was in that game, moving the ball patiently. Yes, lots of it across the back line, but waiting for that little bit of movement, that little spark, which then triggered a really quick attacking move. And it was a system that you could see Edwards has been trying to implement, and it was starting to work, I thought, yesterday, and that led to what was an excellent first goal. I thought Fleming in the first half was an improvement and was starting to create that link between the kind of possession at the back and moving it forward into attack. And I thought he was working well with Watmore, who was absolutely superb all game for me. So, yeah, I saw some really positive signs in that game. I think where we fell down, obviously there was a couple of individual defensive errors, and each time that led to a goal, which it has been a pattern of the season, and it's something that still needs to be worked on and cut out. Because that's cost us too many points this season already, and it cost us another 1 or potentially 3 yesterday. And I just think the weaknesses in the squad, because of a bit of an injury crisis, and just because of the sort of personnel we've got, it just started to come through, and we weren't able to maintain that level. And after 60 minutes, I thought they looked a bit shot and a bit lost. And yeah, I think that's a clear sign that we need a few reinforcements, whether it's, you know, a couple of loans or a 1 buy and 1 loan or whatever it is, just to bulk up the squad a little bit. We've been really unfortunate. We've been hit with a significant number of injuries in a very short period of time. But at Millwall, we should be used to that, because a lot of our players are very injury prone. And how many seasons in a row have we had a major injury crisis? I think back to sort of across throughout Rowett's era, there was the young, I forget his name now, but the 16-year-old that was brought on purely because we didn't have any other players left. And looking at the bench yesterday, the players that we brought on were the only ones that have made any kind of senior appearances. So, yeah, we're a bit lacking in squad depth, and I think that's something that can be addressed in this window. And hopefully the confidence will still be there, because I thought the performance was decent. I don't think it deserved booing, and I think the players should take some heart in that and work on cutting out those defensive mistakes. And yeah, I think we're in a better position than we have been. And one final point is, whatever, you know, we've won recently, we've lost a couple of games recently, we've drawn a few games, but whatever we've done, it's been a while since we've needed to say that the football's boring. It's not boring, and that's a real sign of encouragement for me, because I'm enjoying going back to the Den. All right, that's it for me. Come on, you Lions. Boos at the end of the game. I didn't hear that, Ben. I've got to be honest, I was that cold by the end of the match. Normally I do a Twitter final score with some witticism, type it out at the end, but my fingers were so cold I couldn't even do that. So maybe, I don't know if cold affects your ears as well. I didn't hear any booing. I did hear a couple at the end of the first half, which I always think is I don't know, it's low rent behaviour, but I can't see how any Millwall fan can boo at the end of a disappointing result, yes, but as every single caller on this show has said, I've said it myself, you know, the first half saw some really, really good football, some of the best I've seen, as everyone said, you know, in a long time, however far you go back, it's probably as good as any that you've seen. Now that's got to be stretched out across 90 plus minutes nowadays. And that's the project that's got to be undertaken. But I don't see how you can boo at the end of that. Perhaps that's the modern fan syndrome. This is going to close you out now with a little thought that perhaps, you know, the modern FIFA generation have a lack of tolerance of what those of us from years gone by, and I don't want to sound like some old git, but, you know, a toleration for, or an acceptance that not everything goes your way all the time. Because I can't see how anyone can seriously boo that. As Angelo said, that's some of the best in years, as he's put it rightly there, the first 38 minutes. And I do agree with you, Angelo, that we do have the right man in charge. I think that's the signs are there, the green shoots of recovery. I'll borrow that phrase from the other day. I do think that we're heading in the right direction, and that can only be good news. And as I think Ben said it there, as I was walking back to the train station on Saturday, despite having lost a couple of really silly goals to a couple of silly errors, I was looking forward to going back to Millwall next time I can, and it's been a long while really since I can seriously say that. So there we are. We're going to close you now. Late message. This is a stop press message from John Rankin. Before I play out with John, we've got 2 punditgames.co.uk questions. That's the number 1 football trivia game, punditgames.co.uk. Great birthday present, dear listeners, if you're looking to buy a board game for the football head in your life, or if you just want to get together a few of the chaps over the summertime, have a few beers, or perhaps something a little bit more sophisticated, perhaps a drop of Pinot Grigio or something like that on a Sunday afternoon. Get the pundit games out and it'll be endless fun. Your wives will love listening to these football trivia game questions. But I'll give you give you a little taster earlier on, didn't I? A little tempter. 2 questions, 2 World Cup questions. First one is one of football's most bizarre moments. Luis Suarez turned into Iker Casillas in the 2010 quarter-final, taking the match to extra time in penalties. The striker, who was known as El Loco, took the decisive spot kick in that game, scoring an audacious Panenka. El Loco, who was he? Played for 31 clubs in 11 different countries across his career. He was Sebastian Abreu, Uruguayan player. And the other question, which was another World Cup question, a big Dutchman who conceded a penalty in the 5-1 win for Holland over Spain in 2014. So this was the opening goal for Spain. Later moved to Italy, to Lazio, and then on to Inter Milan. That defender was Stefan De Vrij. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that. Perhaps Ian Fleming can come on the show sometime and correct my Dutch. Stefan De Vrij. So there we are. Punditgames.co.uk, terrific board game. Do check it out, dear listeners. Every sale, if you select Achtung Millwall at the checkout, generates a donation to the Lions Food Hub, which is terrific. So there we are. We're going to close the show today. Thank you for listening, dear listeners. I'm going to close out now with John Rankin. We'll be back after the Queen's Park Rangers fixture on Saturday. Until then, from me, Nick Hart, thank you for listening. Vote Achtung in the sports podcast. I was going to stick a little link on this show. I meant to do it the other day. They asked me to do a little promotional video to try and generate votes, and I was going to do it Saturday, but I was so damnably cold, dear listeners, that I could not be asked. So I'm going to need your votes. If I can't be asked doing that on Saturday, I need you to vote for me instead in the warmth of your living room or the whichever Riviera you're haunting out there around the world. So visit the link on the show notes if you can do. I'll be eternally obliged. If we can get placed against some of the big names we're up against, then I shall probably I might expire with happiness. But there we are. So let's finish now with John Rankin. Until next edition of Achtung Millwall, arrivederci Millwall. Bye for now.
Hi Nick, hi listeners. John Rankin here, just calling in after the home defeat, another home defeat at the Den. Talk about a game of 2 halves, or a game of 38 minutes actually. I mean, when we came out, we looked good. I said in my last voicemail, I love seeing Millwall win. I do. I mean, I don't care how we win, but I do like possession-based football, I must admit that. It just makes me feel comfortable. I like it when we've got the ball and the other team haven't. I think that, to my mind, very simplistic way of playing football and looking at football. If we've got the ball, they can't score. And also they've got to run around and try and get it off us, which makes them tired, which makes gaps open up, and then which allows us the opportunity to score. And that's what we did for the first 38 minutes of the first half. I thought we outplayed them off the park, to be honest with you. We looked comfortable at the back. I was watching, obviously I was sitting in the Coldbrow Lane end. I was watching Sarkic and Wes Harding and Cooper and Danny Mack, knock it around at the back. And it was great. Billy Mitchell would come down, pick the ball up, try and go forward, if not, back to them and, play the ball around, and we had them moving around. We moved, as Gary Rout used to say, we moved the other team around, which is great to see. And it was a good move, opened up, and Joe Bryan scored a fantastic goal. Then it all went downhill from there. I've never seen such a fucking shit show, to be honest with you. I've never seen such a shit show defensively. I mean, what the fuck was going on with that goal? I thought the referee had blown the whistle. I seriously thought the referee had blown the whistle and Middlesbrough were just fucking around putting it in the back of the net. I've never seen such a fucking absurd way for a defence to handle themselves. I mean, you know, we've driven all the way up from the south coast, right, to watch that defensive display of fucking shite. Then, to add insult to injury, Joe Bryan, supposed to be a Premiership player, nods it through for Isaiah Jones to finish the job off. And then from there, it was obvious they were going to score again because we needed to put someone up front other than Kevin Nisbet, who can't punch his way out of a fucking paper bag, if you ask me, to score a goal. So, freezing me bollocks off, sitting in my car with my boy in Mercury Way thinking, fucking hell, what is going on? I don't know what to make of it. Bipolar Millwall, isn't it? 1 minute you're up, 1 minute you're down. Come on, you Lions.